I was standing outside the courtroom bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror, trying not to cry, because in less than 10 minutes, I was about to testify against my own mother. And the worst part, she wasn't even looking scared. She was smiling, like she already knew I would lose. You know what's funny? My whole life, I thought my pain started when I turned 17. But now I realize it started the day I was born. My mother never held me the way other moms did. No pictures of me as a baby in her arms. No stories about my first steps. Just silence. Cold, distant silence. Growing up, I always felt like a guest in my own house. My younger brother, he got everything. New clothes, birthday parties, attention. Me, I got hand-me-downs and rules. Lots of rules. Don't talk too loud. Don't laugh like that. Don't embarrass me. I didn't understand it back then. Why she looked at me like I was a mistake, like I didn't belong. Until one night, I was 14. I woke up thirsty, went to the kitchen, and I heard voices from the living room, my mom and my aunt. My name came up, so I stopped. And what I heard, it didn't just break my heart, it erased it. My aunt asked her, "Why are you so hard on her? She's just a child." My mom laughed, not a normal laugh, a cold, empty laugh. And she said, "Because she reminds me of him." I froze. My aunt whispered, "Does she know?" And my mom said something that I wish I could unhear. Even now, she's not supposed to exist. My legs literally gave out. I sat on the floor, shaking, trying to understand what that meant. But I didn't confront her. I couldn't, because deep down, I was scared of the answer. So I stayed quiet for 3 more years, until the night everything changed. I was 17. It was my birthday. Well, technically, but no one remembered. My mom left early, didn't say anything. My brother had a party for no reason. And me? I sat in my room in the dark. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something felt off. So, I picked it up. "Hello." Silence. Then a man's voice. Low, calm, like he'd been waiting years for this moment. "Happy birthday, Sarah." I stopped breathing. Nobody called me Sarah. Not anymore. My mom had forced everyone to use a different name since I was 8. I whispered, "Who is this?" And then he said something that flipped my entire world upside down. "I'm your father." My heart didn't just drop, it shattered. Because my father died when I was 6. That's what I was told. That's what I cried for. That's what I believed. So I hung up immediately. I thought it was some sick joke. But then another message came. A picture, old, blurry, but clear enough. It was me, as a baby, in someone's arms, smiling. And the person holding me wasn't the man in our family albums. This man looked different, younger, softer. And on the back of the photo, there was a date, the same day I was born. My hands started shaking again. And then another message. "Your mother lied to you." I didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. The next morning, I did something I had never done before. I walked straight up to my mother, looked her in the eyes, and asked, "Who is my real father?" She didn't even hesitate. She slapped me hard. The kind of slap that doesn't just hurt your face. It humiliates you. "Don't ever ask me that again." That's all she said. And that's when I knew the man on the phone was telling the truth, but I still didn't know why. Why lie about something like that? Why erase a person completely? So I called the number back, hands shaking, heart racing. He picked up immediately, like he'd been waiting. I knew you'd call. I didn't waste time. Tell me everything. And there was a pause, a long one, like he was choosing which truth would hurt less. But what he said next, it didn't just hurt. It changed everything I thought I knew about my life. Your mother didn't just lie about me. She tried to make sure you would never find me. My chest tightened. What do you mean? And then, in a calm, almost broken voice, he said, she told me you died the day you were born. My entire body went cold, because in that moment, I realized something terrifying. My mother didn't just hide the truth. She erased me from someone who actually wanted me. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. All those years, thinking I was unwanted, a mistake, a burden, when in reality, someone out there had been mourning me for 17 years. And that's when something inside me broke. But also, something woke up. Because suddenly, this wasn't just pain anymore. This was a story, a truth, a secret that someone had tried to bury. And I wasn't going to let it stay buried. I asked him one last question before hanging up. Why now? And his answer, it made my blood run cold. Because your mother just filed a case. My heart skipped. A case against who? Silence. Then, against you. I laughed, at first, because it sounded insane, impossible. But then he said something that turned that laugh into pure fear. She's trying to prove you're not legally her daughter. The room started spinning, because if that was true, then everything I had, my identity, my name, my existence, could disappear overnight. And suddenly, that courtroom I was standing outside of wasn't just about family anymore. It was about whether I had the right to exist at all. And I hadn't even told you yet what she was hiding, the one thing she was willing to destroy me for. I didn't even realize when I started shaking. My phone slipped from my hand, hit the floor, and I just stood there staring at nothing. Because how do you process something like that? Your own mother trying to erase you illegally? That whole day felt unreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart, not mine. But by evening, reality hit hard. A legal notice arrived, my name on it, cold, official, final. Petition to declare non-biological relation. My fingers tightened around the paper. She wasn't just denying me emotionally anymore. She was doing it on paper, in court, in front of everyone. And the worst part, she had proof. Or at least she believed she did. That night, I didn't cry, not a single tear, because something inside me had shifted. Pain turned into focus. Fear turned into anger. For the first time in my life, I wasn't scared of her anymore. I was ready. The next morning, I called him again. My real father. I still wasn't used to saying that. He answered instantly. Again. I need your help. No hesitation. No questions. I'm already on my way. Those words, they did something to me. For 17 years, no one chose me. And suddenly someone was. 2 days later, I saw him for the first time at a small cafe, far from my house. I almost didn't recognize him, but when he stood up and looked at me, There was no doubt. His eyes, they were mine. And before I could stop myself, I hugged him tightly, like I was trying to make up for 17 years in 1 second. He didn't let go either. And when we finally pulled back, his eyes were wet. I thought I lost you. That sentence, it hit deeper than anything my mother had ever said, because for the first time, I felt wanted. But the moment didn't last long, because reality was waiting. We sat down, and he took out a file, thick, organized, prepared. I knew this day might come. My heart dropped again. What do you mean? And then he started explaining. Years ago, when my mother told him I had died, he didn't believe her. Something felt wrong. So he investigated, quietly, carefully, and what he found, it terrified him. She had connections. My chest tightened. Connections where? He looked at me serious. In places where records can disappear. I felt cold again, because suddenly, this wasn't just a family issue. This was bigger, much bigger. He continued. She changed documents, hospital records, birth reports. My breath stopped. She made it look like you never existed. My hands clenched. So, how am I here? He leaned forward. Because someone made a mistake. Silence filled the air. A nurse kept a copy. My heart started racing again. And that copy, he slid a paper across the table. I looked down. It was my birth record. Original, untouched, real. And for the first time in my life, I saw the truth. My real name, my real father's name, everything. My eyes filled instantly. All those years, living under a lie, a name that wasn't mine, a story that wasn't mine. And now, it was all right there, in black and white. I kept this safe all these years. I looked up at him. Why didn't you come for me? His face changed. Pain, guilt, regret. I tried. My heart sank again. But every time I got close, something stopped me. My voice dropped. Something or someone? He didn't answer immediately. That silence. It told me everything. My mother. She didn't just lie. She controlled everything. But then he said something that made my stomach twist. She wasn't alone. I froze. What do you mean? And he leaned closer, lower voice. Serious. There's someone else involved. My heartbeat started pounding in my ears. Who? And then he said a name I knew very well. My brother's. I laughed, but it wasn't real laughter. No, that's not possible. But his face didn't change. He's been helping her for years. Everything inside me cracked again, because suddenly, all those memories started making sense. The way my brother always watched me, the way he reported everything I did, the way he never defended me, not even once. It wasn't indifference. It was control. And I didn't even realize I had been living under surveillance my whole life. My chest felt tight. Why? And my father answered, soft but brutal, because if you exist legally, you inherit everything. I blinked. What everything? And then he said the one thing that changed the entire game. Your grandfather's estate. I froze completely, because my grandfather, the man I barely remembered, was insanely wealthy. And suddenly, everything made sense. The hatred, the lies, the control. It wasn't about me. It was about money, power, and I was the problem, the only thing standing in their way. I leaned back in my chair, heart racing, mind spinning, because now this wasn't just about proving who I was. It was about surviving a system designed to erase me. And that's when my father said one last thing, something that made this whole situation even more dangerous. They already know you met me. My stomach dropped. How? He looked at me, calm but serious, because someone followed you here. I slowly turned my head toward the cafe window. I couldn't move. My eyes locked on him across the street. My brother, standing there like he'd been waiting for this moment. And then he slowly raised his phone and took a picture of me with him, my father. My heart dropped because in that second, I understood something terrifying. This wasn't just spying. This was evidence. He turned and walked away, relaxed, like he had already won. I whispered, "He knows." My father didn't even look surprised. I told you they're always one step ahead. My hands clenched. No. For the first time in my life, I refused to accept it. No, not anymore. I stood up so fast the chair scraped loudly. People turned, staring, but I didn't care. I'm done being scared of them. My voice was shaking, but not from fear anymore. From anger. 17 years of silence, of control, of being treated like I didn't matter. And now, they wanted to erase me completely? Not happening. My father stood up slowly, watching me, not stopping me. Because I think, for the first time, he saw something in me. Strength. The same strength they tried to bury. We left the cafe. Quickly. The air outside felt heavier, like something bad was already in motion. And it was because the moment I got home, the locks were changed. I stood there, frozen. My own house. No, not my house. Her house. I knocked hard. No answer. Then again, louder. Still nothing. Until finally, the door opened, just a little, and my brother stood there, blocking the entrance. That same smile on his face. You shouldn't be here. My chest tightened. This is my home. He laughed, soft mocking. Not anymore. My heart started racing again. What are you talking about? And then he did something so casual, so cruel. He handed me a paper, another legal document. I grabbed it, hands shaking. Temporary removal notice. Issued that morning. My name crossed out. My existence suspended. I looked up at him. You planned this. He leaned closer, voice low, almost enjoying it. You should have stayed quiet. That sentence. It lit something inside me. Because suddenly, I realized this was never about truth. It was about control, and I had just broken their biggest rule. I spoke. Before I could say anything else, my mother's voice came from inside. Close the door. Cold, sharp, final. And just like that, the door shut in my face. Locked. Again. I stood there, alone, not just homeless, erased, but instead of crying, I smiled, a small one, but real, because for the first time, I knew something they didn't. They had made a mistake, a big one. They pushed me out, but they forgot one thing. I wasn't alone anymore. That night, I stayed at my father's place. It wasn't big, it wasn't fancy, but it felt safe. And that feeling, it was new to me. We sat across from each other, silence between us, but not uncomfortable, just heavy. Finally, he spoke. They're moving faster now. I nodded. They think they've already won. He looked at me. Good. I blinked. Good. And then, for the first time, he smiled, because that's when people make mistakes. Something about the way he said it. It wasn't just hope. It was strategy. He stood up, walked to a cabinet, and pulled out another file. This one, thicker, older. What I showed you before. He placed it on the table. That was just the beginning. My heartbeat picked up again. What else is there? He opened it slowly. Inside, photos, documents, signatures, and one envelope, sealed. My name on it. I stared at it. This is from your mother. My breath caught. She wrote it the day you were born. My hands started shaking again. Why would she? He looked at me, serious, because she never expected you to read it. Silence filled the room, because suddenly, this wasn't just about proving my identity anymore. This was about uncovering a truth she had buried for 17 years. Slowly, carefully, I picked up the envelope. My name, written in her handwriting. The same handwriting that signed the document trying to erase me. My fingers trembled as I opened it and pulled out the paper inside. Just one page. One sentence. That's all it took to destroy everything. I read it once, then again, because my brain refused to accept it. And when I finally looked up, my voice was barely a whisper. She knew. My father didn't ask what it said. He already knew. Tears rolled down my face, not from sadness, but from something deeper. Betrayal, truth, rage. Because that sentence, it proved one thing. My mother didn't hate me because I was a mistake. She hated me because I was the proof of something she had done. Something she could never let the world find out. And now, I had it in my hands. The truth, the weapon, the thing she feared the most. But I hadn't even realized yet how dangerous that truth really was. Because the moment I folded that paper, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. I stared at it, then answered, slowly. Hello. And the voice on the other end, it wasn't calm this time. It wasn't patient. It was angry. You should have stayed out of this. My blood ran cold, because I knew that voice. Not my brother. Not my mother. Someone else. Someone we hadn't even seen yet. And what he said next, it made one thing very clear. This war was bigger than I thought. Return the letter, or next time, we won't just erase you on paper. The call ended, and for the first time since this started, I felt real fear, because now it wasn't just about losing everything. My hand was still holding the phone, but I couldn't feel it anymore. That voice, it wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. For the first time since all this started, I felt something deeper than anger. Danger. Real physical danger. I slowly looked up at my father. He already knew. Someone else is involved. I nodded. They want the letter. Silence filled the room, heavy, suffocating. Because now we both understood. This wasn't just about family. This was about something bigger, something hidden, something worth destroying lives for. My father exhaled slowly. I was hoping we had more time. My heart skipped. Time for what? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked to the door, locked it, then checked the windows. One by one. That's when it hit me. He was scared too, and that made everything worse. Finally, he turned back to me. There are things I didn't tell you yet. My chest tightened again. Why? His voice dropped, serious, controlled, because I didn't want to drag you into it. I almost laughed, but it came out broken. I'm already in it. Silence. Then he nodded. You're right. He sat down across from me again. That letter you're holding. He pointed at it. It's not just proof. It's leverage. My grip tightened. Leverage for what? And then he said something that made my entire body go cold. For a crime. The word hung in the air. Heavy, dangerous? What crime? He looked straight into my eyes. The reason your mother erased you. My heartbeat started pounding again. Because suddenly, everything was about to make sense. And I wasn't sure I was ready for it. She didn't just lie about your birth. She replaced someone. I blinked. What? His voice stayed steady. There was another baby. The room spun. Another baby? A girl. My hands started shaking again. Where is she? And that's when his eyes changed. Dark, serious, almost afraid. She died. My breath stopped. Because suddenly, this wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was something darker. Something permanent. How? He hesitated just for a second, and that second, it said everything. It wasn't an accident. My heart dropped, hard, because now, the picture was complete. My mother didn't hate me for no reason. She hated me because I existed instead of someone else, and that meant one thing. I wasn't supposed to be here. Not in her life. Not in that house. Not even alive. Tears filled my eyes again. But I forced them back. No. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. No, I'm not running from this. For the first time, I felt something stronger than fear. Truth. And truth doesn't hide. It fights. My father watched me closely. You don't understand how dangerous this is. I stepped closer. Then make me understand. Silence. Then he nodded slowly. Your mother wasn't acting alone. Again, that phrase. Someone else. Always someone else. Who is it? He took a deep breath. Someone powerful. My stomach tightened. How powerful? He didn't answer with words. Instead, he reached into the file and pulled out a photograph. Old, slightly faded. 3 people standing together. My mother, my father, and a third man, wearing a suit, smiling. But there was something about that smile. It felt wrong. Calculated. Who is he? My father's voice dropped, almost a whisper. The man who helped her make everything disappear. My heartbeat started racing again. And now he wants the letter back. Because that letter, it didn't just expose my mother. It exposed him too. And powerful people don't like being exposed. My mind was spinning, connecting everything. The lies, the documents, the threats. This wasn't chaos. It was planned for years. And I had just broken it. Suddenly, a loud noise came from outside. A car door slamming shut. We both froze. Then footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming closer. My father's face changed instantly. Go to the back room. My heart jumped. Who is it? He didn't answer. He just whispered, now. I didn't argue. I ran down the hallway into the back room, closing the door quietly. But I didn't lock it. I stayed close, listening. Every sound felt louder, every second heavier. Then a knock. Slow, controlled, not nervous, confident, too confident. My father walked to the door. I could hear his steps, then silence. And then the door opened. A voice filled the room. Come, cold. You took something that doesn't belong to you. My blood ran cold instantly, because I recognized that voice. From the phone, I held my breath, trying to hear everything. My father didn't respond immediately. Then finally, you shouldn't be here. The man chuckled. That's funny. A pause, because I was about to say the same thing about her. My heart started pounding so loud. I was scared they'd hear it. They knew. He knew I was here. And then his footsteps moved, not toward the door, but inside the house. Closer, closer, toward me. I stepped back slowly, every instinct screaming, run, hide, do something. But I couldn't move, because the next thing he said made everything worse. Come out. His voice was right outside the door. I don't like playing games. My hand covered my mouth, trying not to make a sound. But then, the handle started to turn, slowly, and in that moment, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about the past anymore. This was about what happens next, and whether I make it out alive. The handle kept turning, slowly, like he already knew. I wasn't going anywhere. My heartbeat was so loud, I could barely hear anything else. One more second, and the door would open. So I did the only thing I could. I spoke. I know what you did. Silence. The handle stopped moving. For a split second, everything froze. Then, a soft chuckle. You think you do. His voice was right there, on the other side. But I didn't back down. No. My voice was shaking, but I pushed through it. I have proof. Another pause, longer this time. And then, the door stopped completely, because that changed everything. Powerful people don't fear emotions. They fear evidence. I stepped closer to the door. You helped her. Changed records. Erased a child. My chest rose and fell fast. And now you want to erase me too. Silence again. But this time, it felt different. He wasn't amused anymore. He was calculating. Finally, he spoke. Lower, colder. You don't understand what you're holding. I closed my eyes for a second, then said it. I understand enough, and I'm not giving it back. A sharp breath came from outside. Not anger. Control breaking. Good. Because for the first time, he wasn't the one in control. I was... Footsteps. He stepped back. I could feel the distance, even without seeing him. Then, his voice again. Everything has a price. I swallowed hard. What's yours? My mind raced. Money, safety, silence. But then I remembered. 17 years. Of being nothing. Of being invisible. Of being told I didn't matter. So I answered, truth. Silence. Deep, heavy silence. Then, a quiet laugh. You sound just like him. My father. And that's when I realized. This wasn't just about me. This was a war that started long before I was born. And I was the piece they failed to remove. Footsteps again, but this time away from the door, toward the exit. Then he stopped. One day, his voice echoed slightly. You'll wish you never opened that letter. The front door opened, closed, and just like that, he was gone. I stood there, frozen, for a few seconds. Then slowly, I opened the door. My father was standing in the hallway, his face tense, eyes searching me. You okay? I nodded, but my hands were still shaking. He's gone. We both stood there, processing, because we both knew this wasn't over, not even close. But something had changed. The fear, it wasn't controlling me anymore. It was fueling me. Days passed, fast. Lawyers, documents, meetings, everything moved quickly now. Because once truth starts coming out, it doesn't stop. And neither did I. The courtroom day came. The same one I was standing outside of at the beginning. Only this time, I wasn't shaking the same way. I wasn't scared of losing. I was ready to expose everything. I walked in, and there she was, my mother. Perfect posture, perfect expression, like nothing ever happened, like I was still nothing. My brother beside her, same cold smile. But when our eyes met, something was different. There was doubt. Small, but there. Good. Because they should be scared now. Not me. The hearing started. Their lawyer spoke first, confident, polished. Your Honor, the petitioner seeks to correct a long-standing error. Error. That's what I was to them. A mistake, to be corrected. I clenched my fists, but stayed quiet. Then it was our turn. My lawyer stood up. Focused. Your Honor, before we proceed. A pause. We would like to submit new evidence. The room shifted slightly. My mother's expression didn't change, but my brother's. That tiny crack grew wider. Good. The documents were handed over. The birth record, the letter, everything. And then the judge started reading. Slowly, carefully. The room went silent. Every second felt heavier than the last. Then the judge looked up at my mother and asked one simple question. Would you like to explain this? For the first time, she didn't answer immediately. Her perfect control, it slipped just a little. And that was enough. Because truth doesn't need shouting. It just needs a crack. And once it's there, everything breaks. Her voice came out. Not strong, not confident, but thin. This is a misunderstanding. Even she didn't believe it, and everyone could feel it. Then, my lawyer spoke again. Then perhaps we should read the letter out loud. My heart pounded, because that letter was the end of everything she built. The judge nodded. Proceed. And as the words were read, out loud, in that silent courtroom, I watched her, every expression, every breath, and slowly, her world collapsed, right in front of everyone, because the letter didn't just tell the truth. It proved intention. It proved guilt. It proved everything. Gasps filled the room. Whispers, shock. My brother looked at her, not confident anymore, confused, betrayed, because even he didn't know everything. And that was her final mistake. She thought she could control everyone. But secrets don't stay buried forever. The judge spoke again. Firm, final. This case is dismissed. My breath caught, but he wasn't done. And further investigation will be initiated. My mother's face went pale, because now, this wasn't just about me. This was about what she did years ago, and the man behind it. As the room erupted, I just stood there, still, quiet, because after everything, I didn't feel revenge. I felt free. For the first time in my life, I existed, not as a mistake, not as a secret, but as truth. And as I walked out of that courtroom, I didn't look back, because some chapters don't deserve a second glance. They deserve an ending. I stepped outside the courtroom, and for the first time in my life, the air felt different. Not lighter, just mine. No one controlling it. No one deciding if I deserved to breathe it. People were talking behind me. Reporters, lawyers, strangers, but their voices felt far away, like background noise. Because for once, I wasn't listening to them. I was listening to myself. And my heart wasn't racing anymore. It was calm, steady, alive. Footsteps came from behind. I didn't turn. I already knew who it was. My father. He stopped beside me, not saying anything, just standing there, like he didn't want to break the moment. After a few seconds, he spoke. "You did it." I let out a slow breath. "No." My voice was soft. "I survived it." Because that's what it felt like. Not victory. Survival. Years of silence, of being invisible, of being erased piece by piece. And somehow, I was still here, whole. He looked at me, proud, but also something else. Relief. Like he finally believed I was really there. Not gone, not lost. Real. "Come with me." I frowned slightly. "Where?" He didn't answer directly. "Somewhere you should have seen a long time ago." Something about that. It pulled me in. So I followed. We drove for almost an hour. Out of the city, past places I didn't recognize. Until we stopped. In front of a large gate. Old. Iron. Locked. I looked at him, confused. "What is this?" He reached into his pocket, pulled out a key, and for a second my breath caught, because something inside me already knew. He unlocked the gate, slowly pushed it open. "This," his voice was quiet, "is yours." I froze. "What?" We walked inside, and then I saw it. A house. Big, quiet, untouched. Like it had been waiting. For someone. For me. "This was your grandfather's estate." My chest tightened again. "But I thought." He nodded. "They wanted you to think it was gone." Of course they did. Because if I believed it didn't exist, I'd never ask for it. I stepped forward slowly. Every step felt unreal. Like I was walking into a life that was stolen from me. The door creaked open. Dust, silence, memories I never got to have. I walked inside, my fingers brushing against the walls, trying to feel something. But what I felt wasn't sadness. It was something deeper. Belonging. For the first time, I wasn't standing in someone else's space. I wasn't tolerated. I wasn't temporary. I was meant to be here. Tears rolled down my face, but I didn't stop them. Because these weren't tears of pain. They were a release. Behind me, my father spoke again. "There's one more thing." I turned. He was holding another envelope. My name on it. Again. But this one felt different. This one. He stepped closer. "Is from your grandfather." My heart skipped. He wrote it before he died. My hands trembled as I took it, because suddenly, this wasn't about the past anymore. This was about what was waiting for me. I opened it slowly, carefully, and inside, a letter, longer than the last one. I started reading. "My dear granddaughter." My breath caught instantly, because that was the first time anyone had ever called me that. Not a mistake, not a burden, a granddaughter. I don't know if you'll ever read this, but if you do, it means you've found your way back. Tears blurred my vision. I always knew something wasn't right, but I ran out of time before I could fix it. My chest tightened. So, I leave everything to you. Not just the house, but the truth. Because truth is the only thing that can't be taken from you. I stopped reading for a second because that line, it hit deeper than anything else. After everything I went through, everything they tried to take from me, he was right. They could take my name, my home, my identity, but they couldn't take the truth. And now, I had it. I finished the letter slowly, each word, feeling like it was rebuilding something inside me, something they tried to destroy. When I looked up, the sun was setting through the broken windows, golden light filling the room, and for the first time, it didn't feel like the end of something. It felt like a beginning, a real one, not built on lies, not controlled by fear. Mine. I turned to my father. What happens now? He smiled, soft, proud. Now you live. Simple, but powerful, because for so long, I wasn't living. I was surviving, and there's a difference, a big one. I walked toward the window, looking out at everything that was now mine, and for the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I didn't feel like I had to fight just to exist. I just was, and that was enough. More than enough. Because in the end, they tried to erase me, but all they did was prove I was never something that could be erased. I was truth, and truth always finds a way back. The end.